This is my answer to evaluation question 1. In what ways does your media product use, develop or challenge forms of conventions of real media products? A film that Neighbours was heavily based on was Heathers. It was released in 1988 and it's a black comedy. The similarities to Neighbours, there are a main group of girls and they're a clique. And then there's one girl who's left out. In ours, it would be Sarah, and in Heather's, it's Veronica. This is an example of what the Mean Girls clique look like, and there are stereotypes being portrayed by clothing in Heather's. Other similarities would be that it involves suicide and killing each other. So, for example, the clique wears a very retro sort of based on colour, and that just sort of shows that they're a clique. And then Veronica is wearing dark clothing, whereas in our film the clique are all wearing pink lipstick and Sarah is wearing dark clothes. Antagonists are countertypes to the usual. So, for example, in Mean Girls, the clique is actually the antagonists, whereas the girl who's not part of the clique is the protagonist, whereas in Heather's, both are antagonists. Our film is quite different to Heather's in many ways. For example, there's no male figure influence on the antagonist, whereas in Heather's, JD is a big influence on Veronica in the killings. If we had more time, we'd probably add a male antagonist or protagonist to bring in the secondary audience of male of the. Another film which our film can be compared to is Mean Girls. In Neighbours, there's an actual killer, which is a counter stereotype. Whereas in Mean Girls, everything's quite happy. I mean, the girl is being targeted. However, it's not as serious matter as killing someone. And that's where the black comedy comes from. So, for the conventions of my ident, for Heather's, the ident before is New World Pictures. And it's a black background and a red circular pattern, bringing the eyes in. And it's a dark theme for a dark film. And then for Neighbours, my ident is a red velvet cake and it's also circular. And then there'll be powdered sugar with Scaife Studios printed on it. Typical conventions for titles for a film, such as a black comedy, usually are quite dark. They're kind of spotted round on the screen. For example, in Heather's, the title Heather's is in the middle with someone tying their hair with a red scrunchie in the background, and this lasts for 5 seconds. And then the first two main characters are first on the black background, Winona Ryder and Christopher. These are the two antagonists in the film, and these are the first that come up on the screen. And then using the scene to move other titles around, bringing your attention to the surrounding areas. So the girls, the Heathers, are walking through the garden, and the titles are around the screen. So for Neighbours, using this as inspiration, I'm putting the titles placed around the screen, and Sarah and Izzy, the antagonists, are the first people that you see. The ending to Heather's in the first 2 minutes, it's Veronica's head, and she's the antagonist. And there are 2 croquette balls surrounding her, and then she gets hit on the head with one of them because they're aiming for her. Whereas in Neighbours, it's a close shot of the back of Sarah and over the shoulder shot, and there's pictures of girls on the walls. So it's sort of giving you an idea of what could happen. For the main character in Neighbours, the first shot is of the main character in bed, which is Sarah, and then the second main character, Izzy. They're both in the same position but different and contrasting mise-en-scène. Close shots of Sarah creating tension and the audience picking up details about Sarah. And there are long medium shots also in the bedroom to show the binary opposition. And then there's long medium shots of the group of girls showing that they aren't as influential as Sarah, because the audience won't be able to see the detail. Whereas Heather's, the first shot is the initial antagonist, and and they're waiting for the final shot to show Veronica, and it's a close shot of Veronica. We use ambiguity and tension to wait till the end to show Sarah crossing off the wall, the girls' faces, to signify and to connote to the audience that Sarah's the killer. Our film follows the general conventions for a dark comedy such as Heathers. So for Heathers, there's a female clique, and we can sort of get the idea that they're bullying Veronica, who's a bit of an outsider who wears darker clothes. So we've already sort of got that. We can already connote that from what we see. And Neighbours, we've got the female clique, walking towards Sarah, and Sarah's just sort of on the outside watching, and just showing that the two girls are binary opposites. Because in our film, Sarah's wearing dark clothes, much like Veronica, and Izzy's wearing lighter clothes, much like the main Heathers character. Our film is challenging general conventions because films such as Mean Girls and Heathers, it's clear who the protagonists and antagonists are. Whereas in our film, it's not too clear until the end that Sarah's the antagonist, killing off the other antagonists. So for shot types, Heathers, they use close shots, long shots of the three girls, and it's a tracking panning shot. And then they also use close shot of the feet stamping on the flowers. And they use a close shot of Veronica. Also, they have a close shot of maybe Dick, the book. So this could be a signifier of what the film is about. Whereas for the film Neighbours, there's a medium shot and jumping from Sarah to Izzy of close shots, so we get visual representations of their personalities. There's a panning shot of Izzy laying in bed showing the mise en scène, and a close shot of them getting out of bed, much like in Heathers, the close shot of their feet. There's panning shots of the houses to show the mise en scène, to show that they're neighbours, which is a key point in the film. There's a long shot of the girls walking together and a close shot of Sarah, and I've split the screen to show Sarah following the girls with her eyes and just watching them. There's also another panning shot and of the graveyard later on, and I use this to overlap the tracking shot of Sarah following the girls. Key conventions for a black comedy would be a female protagonist and a male protagonist, and also possibly a few antagonists threatening the protagonist. Also, for a black comedy such as Heathers and Donnie Darko, generally the clothing is quite dark, and we get a view of the protagonist within the first few seconds of the film. Possibly them doing something that they shouldn't be, giving us an idea that they're the bad guys. Whereas in our film Neighbours, we wait till the end of the 2 minutes to show that Sarah is actually the antagonist, killing off these girls with the pictures on the wall and her crossing off their faces. Challenges for working in a small group at Ilkley Grammar School was that we didn't have any non-Caucasian females in the film. If we were to continue filming, then we'd probably go on a wider scale and have more ethnicities, so this would appeal to a wider audience. However, by using just Caucasian females, we are actually sticking to the typical conventions. If you look at films such as Mean Girls and Heathers, they are just Caucasian females. Initially, the audience didn't understand that Sarah was the killer until towards the end, so this wasn't actually the preferred reading to begin with. We then added the voiceover to improve this, and we got the preferred reading that Sarah was the killer. We used interlocking edits to keep the audience involved in what was happening. We had intercutting scenes at the beginning of our film, moving back and forth in time non-linear narrative to both get the action moving straight away and introduce the main protagonists and antagonists. A voiceover was used later on to get a range of scenes and introduce the characters and the narrative themes, such as that the girls had a past.